Check that you have all of your patterns. Front top, back top, collar, sleeve, sleeve cuff, skirt, skirt cuff, belt loop. Sew up the darts on the front and back top. Sew the front and back top panels together along the shoulder and side seams with a 1 cm seam allowance. On the sleeve, mark out the notches. Sew crimping stitch along the sleeve crown. Fold the sleeve into half and sew along the side seam with a 1 cm seam allowance. Fold the sleeve cuff and sew along the side seam with a 1 cm seam allowance. At the hem of the sleeve, divide equally into 4 quadrants and mark. Using the seam as a guide, repeat for the sleeve cuff. With both panels wrong side facing up, sew them together along the bottom with a 1 cm seam allowance, making sure to match up the markings as you go. Flipping open the sleeve cuff, understitch on the sleeve, making sure to catch onto the seam allowances below. Fold up the sleeve cuff and iron well. Fold in the raw edge of the sleeve cuff by 1 cm and iron well. Then top stitch close to the folded edge. Attach the sleeve to the armhole with a 1 cm seam allowance. On the collar, mark out the notches. Fold the collar into half and sew the short edges with a 1 cm seam allowance. Grab a pair of scissors and snip into the seam allowances to reduce the bulk. Turn inside out. And iron well. Along the neckline, look for the collar notch, shoulder seam, collar notch. Same for the collar. With the end of the collar, show the seam and the end of the collar. We're going to match them up and pin it down to secure. Align the front facing along the center front. Align up the shoulder notch on the facing to the shoulder seam. Pin to secure. Adjust the rest of the pins if necessary. Starting exactly at the shoulder seam, sew with a 1 cm seam allowance. Turn inside out and check for any folds along the neckline. Repeat for the other side. Align the front facing along the center front. Match up the shoulder notch on the facing to the shoulder seam and pin to secure. Adjust the rest of the pins if necessary. Starting exactly from the shoulder seam, sew with a 1 cm seam allowance. Turn it inside out and check for any folds along the neckline. Grab a pair of scissors and snip into the seam allowances to reduce tension. Then make a snip exactly at the shoulder seam, stopping right in front of the stitches. Turn it inside out. At the back neckline, check that there are 3 unsewn layers: collar, collar, back, top. Push away the top collar and sew the bottom 2 layers together with a 1 cm seam allowance. Check for any folds along the neckline. Make corrections if necessary. Grab a pair of scissors and snip into the seam allowances to reduce tension. Push up all the seam allowances and iron well. Flip down the remaining collar panel and tuck it in so that it covers the stitches below. Iron well. From the right side, sew in the ditch, making sure to catch onto the folded edge below. Fold the belt loops into half and sew 1 cm from the folded edge. Grab a pair of scissors and snip into the seam allowances, reducing it to 0.5 cm. Using a loop turner or any other tool, turn it inside out. Cut evenly in 4 pieces. Align each belt loop to the darts and baste along the waist with a 0.5 cm seam allowance. Sew 2 panels of skirt along the center front or center back with a 1 cm seam allowance. This is the back skirt. Sew the remaining skirt panels to the back skirt along the side seam with a 1 cm seam allowance. For each skirt panels, sew along the waist 2 rows of gathering stitches. The front, from the side seam to the center back, from the center back to the side seam, and the front. Gently gather the skirt panels so that the width matches the top. Then sew the top and skirt panels together along the waist with a 1 cm seam allowance. Check that the seam of the front facing matches the marking on the skirt. Then go ahead and overlock the seam. Sew 2 skirt cuffs panels together along the center back or center front with a 1 cm seam allowance. This will be the back skirt cuff. Sew the remaining skirt cuff panels to the back skirt cuff along the side seams with a 1 cm seam allowance. With both wrong sides facing up, sew the skirt and skirt cuff panels together with a 1 cm seam allowance. Flip open the skirt cuff, then understitch on the skirt panel, making sure to catch onto the seam allowances below. Fold up the skirt cuff and iron well. Fold in the raw edge of the skirt cuff by 1 cm and iron well. Then top stitch close to the folded edge. Fold the skirt along the marking and iron well. Starting from the waist, top stitch 2.5 cm from the folded edge on the skirt panel. To finish up the belt loop, from the waistline, measure and mark the width of your desired belt. Create a loop, twice the length the width of the belt, and sew it down at the marking. Grab a pair of scissors and snip away the excess belt loop fabric close to the stitches. Fold the belt loop over the stitches, then top stitch to secure. Choosing how open you want the front to be, sew buttonholes and hand sew buttons along the center front. And there you have it! Your dress is completed.